Good morning. This is Erik Miles with Seattle Christian Counseling, and today I am going to talk about the purpose of anger. So hopefully I can do it quickly and concisely, and just really get into the meat of how God intends anger to be used in right relationship, why it's so important, and how the enemy has really stripped the good use of anger out of the church and out of culture in such a big way. So the purpose of anger is to protect and to motivate. You know, when a mom sees a kid starting to run out towards the street, and she's like, I gotta go rescue my kid, and she runs out there, that's actually anger motivating her to break through, to make that, to get to the kid, because there's a boundary set, there's a righteousness, and I will protect my child, and it motivates her to move. And people don't realize that that's actually it's anger behind that. When we're in a conversation or having some maybe conflict with somebody, and they start getting really mean or just acting out in a way, and we're setting a boundary. No, you don't get to talk to me like that. That's anger, and it's not about attacking. It's not about pulling back and manipulating or all the other ways that anger's been used. It's about setting a boundary. So if you think about how the enemy has used anger and how throughout, a long time, but I see it definitely in the last couple generations, the enemy has put a spin on anger, and it's used to punish. I think it's in 1 John, it says, perfect love casts out all fear. And if there is fear, it's for fear of punishment. And that means you haven't experienced the perfect love of Jesus. And so, when anger is connected to punishment, we start seeing anger as bad. You think about men in this culture, and you have the big angry men who use anger to control and to lord over and to get people to do what they want because they're scary, because they're angry men, And then you also get the men who are, the nice guys of culture who really pull back. You have a sense of what's going on underneath because they're nice on the surface, but deep down it's I don't trust that. That's anger. They've actually pulled back because of anger. When you think about men, a man without anger, a really healthy version of anger, is either going to be a doormat or an abuser. There's really not much in between, because they're either afraid of standing up. Anger is part of having a backbone where they can confront evil, they can confront themselves to say, no, this is what my integrity looks like, this is what I have to do, this is how I have to show up for my family, for my work, for my friends, for my wife, for my sons, my daughters. This is what has to happen, and it's anger that motivates that. The role that the enemy has done in really turning this around, by calling anger bad, by stripping out the real version, and as a church, it's we've bought it hook, line, and sinker that anger is bad and all this stuff. We've taken the authority out of men and out of women. In just how that's supposed to look, what it is to step up and to hold a line and say, no, this is how it's meant to be. And it also, if you think about not just the outward line, it's the inward line of, no, I'm committed to listening. So that anger is also what brings us up and out. It's what helps us get through, when somebody's feeling embarrassed or feeling shame, they need to just push through. It's anger that does this. No, I'm not going to let that anger, that shame hold me back. I'm going to push through because it's so incredibly important. So again, righteous anger is about having a backbone. And the other piece of it I think is really, really important. You got to hear this, is because God is love and God has anger. He says he's slow to anger and talks about letting anger go. Anger does not and cannot violate love when it's righteous, when it's used right. And so you can really look for feedback if you are acting in righteous anger, it should, like, it really is attractive. It should draw people to you in a way of like, oh, that person is has integrity. That person, that's like a good woman or a good man. And so it's really important. And to put a cap on this message, I almost want you to think about how anger has played out in your family of origin. What was the message you had around anger? Was anger used to, as like the kind of the punishing anger, like, oh, wait till dad gets home, and it's not about like a healthy discipline, but like you were afraid. Anger should never have fear in it when it's used well. Was it the sense of like, if I brought my anger, like if I spoke up to my parents and I said, hey, I'm angry, I'm hurt about this, would they pull back? Would you get even less of what you wanted? Would they get angry at you maybe? All those things is kind of how anger is taught in families. And we take that into our adulthood, and then we teach it to our own children. So think about, like, what was the narrative around anger? What was the message what do you remember about how anger was played out? And you'll start to see a glimpse of how you relate to anger today. And it could be that you've taken the side of like being the angry one, or you've taken the side of being more the passive one. But each one of them is not how anger is meant to be. So I just want to bless you with that. And I hope it sits well with you, because it's really been impactful for me in my work with my clients, really thinking about like what it is to stand up, what it is to hold our own integrity, what it is to be a righteous, godly man or woman. So I bless you today in Jesus' name. I hope you have a lovely day, an amazing afternoon.